Hello everyone, welcome to this live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It has been a while, hasn't it? It's so nice to be able to be back with you again, and I hope that everyone has been incredibly well, super well, since we last had the opportunity to speak and do one of these live Q&As. I couldn't resist, as we're turning into autumn here in the UK, to take this opportunity before the new academic year begins. We've got Welcome Week here about to start at the University of Warwick next week on Monday. All the students are going to be arriving this weekend, and of course all the funs and joys and kind of madness of the university term is about to start. So this felt like a nice opportunity just to have a chance to connect in with you and see what you have all been up to. And thank you so much to everyone who's been sending in some messages of the things that they've been up to over the past couple of months since we last had a chance to connect. So thank you all for taking the time to join back into our old Thursday 5 p.m. UK time slot, and the sun is shining. I hope it finds you all extremely well. And thank you again, as I was saying, for all of the kind of great stuff that you've been telling me about. Deborah Clifton, for instance, has been to Delos. Hello, Alexis. Hello, Justin. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We're just talking about some of the things that people have been up to in the interim. Deborah has been off to Delos, one of my favourite places in the whole of the ancient world. It's quite a trek to get to, not the easiest place to get to. And of course, that slightly bizarre experience where you fly via Mykonos first off, and of course you're into Mykonos, and you're into a very different kind of world on Mykonos, and then you take the boat over to the island of Delos, where peace and calm reigns, and the entire island is dedicated to be an archaeological site. And I remember back, as many of you may remember me sharing, that back when I was a young researcher, just as a postdoc, and I was writing a chapter for a book all about the development of the island of Delos. It is excavated and studied mainly by the French School of Archaeology, the École Française d'Athènes, alongside, of course, Greek archaeologists and the FREA. And the French have, since 1910 or so, had a dig house on the island. And there, along with those who work at the Archaeological Museum, the Greek FREA staff who work at the Archaeological Museum, are the only people who can actually stay overnight on the island of Delos after everyone else has to get off on the final boat about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had the chance back in, it's 2011 now, to stay for a week or so on Delos, and it probably was the most magical experience that I can remember. And I'm glad that Deborah Clifton had exactly the same experience. So hello, Patricia. Hello, Paul. Hello, Justin. Hello, Helen. How are you all? Lovely to see you. Thank you so much indeed for joining in. Deborah Clifton's been to Delos. Let us know through the comments kind of what you guys have been up to as well over the past month since we've last had the chance to chat. Deborah's been on Delos, but sadly the museum was closed for renovation, but so you definitely, Deborah, need to go back again, and so that's fantastic. Chantel has been traveling around the globe with her friends via social media, armchair traveling as she's put it, but absolutely fabulous. Elizabeth has been kind of not traveling but watching different parts of the world through a number of TV documentaries as well, and particularly one that she was looking at was Drain the Oceans, which was a program that I did an interview for, I think, for one of the episodes, but the one that Elizabeth was watching was about Rome in its heyday, in which she flagged this fact that she still can't get over, and I think it's a brilliant fact as well. Rome needed 140 million tons of grain a year shipped into Rome to feed the population. Of course, Rome was the first sort of big city of the ancient world to go beyond 1 million people in terms of inhabitants. 140 million tons of grain a year had to be shipped into Rome just to keep it turning over. Wow. Hello, Sarah, as well. Welcome. Thank you, Elizabeth, for letting us know that. And then Janos has been in Denmark. He's been moving around looking at some of the archaeological sites in Denmark. But he comes in also with a question. So hello, Christina. How are you doing? Nice to see you all. So Janos has asked a question about Sparta, one of our favourite topics to kind of have a think about, isn't it? Sparta. And he is confused and kind of by the sense of how do we get this gap between the depiction of Sparta in the ancient sources and then this kind of modern pop culture kind of sense of Sparta in movies like 300, and then kind of the way that gets kind of taken even further extremes, and he's wondering about how have we ended up with these pop culture versions of Spartans and others setting the tone for everyone's knowledge of history. Well, I mean, in kind of part, it's just too nice, isn't it? It's just too tempting. This image of Spartans a la 300, it's just too captivating. And we're suckered in by it because it's such a romanticized and attractive notion and simplistic notion in many ways of what the Spartans were like. But of course, I think with the Spartans, as we all remember, they did a brilliant job in antiquity of curating a vision of themselves that was quite like the pop culture image that we see coming up in the modern day. The Spartans were, if you like, the first people to really understand the power of image, and what they created for themselves was an image, an external image of a population that was hardened to the core, that thought about nothing but war, and were the sort of people who we can then imagine, of course, going forward and going, you either come back with your shield or on your shield, as the saying goes, or, chucking messengers in a well, and kind of other Gerard Butler famous moments from 300. The reality of Sparta, which we're only getting to now through particularly the archaeology, because they were so good at creating this mirage of what Sparta was. We're getting to real Sparta through the archaeology and finding a much more variated society that was going on inside Sparta, where people were probably a bit more used to a few more luxuries than they let on, and actually there was a much more kind of normal society in many ways, even if they did have this code and ethos, which was the way they presented themselves to the outside world. So, Yanis, particularly with Sparta, the pop culture version of Sparta that lends itself to just movies and everything else today is actually down to the fact that Spartans themselves were brilliant curators of their own image and created this lasting impression that's just too tempting for us ever to give up. Lorraine, you just made it. Hello and welcome. Patricia, welcome. Colin, welcome. Lorraine, everyone, lovely to see you. Susan, really great to see you too. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's great to be back with you. Great to have this chance to let you know kind of how we've all been getting on and to hear from you guys, how you've been getting on. Patricia, you've been to Carcassonne, well, hey, like kind of thing. I hope you had a great time and I hope that was fabulous, you lucky thing. Lorraine, Ed, Paul, tell us everything about where you've been and what you've been up to, and the different travels you may have had, particularly, of course, to any ancient sites across the Mediterranean. I hope you've managed to squeeze one or two of those in. We've just been hearing where Deborah's been, Chantel's been, Elizabeth's been, Yanis has been. Yanis's question about the Spartans as well. I, of course, have missed you all very much indeed. Life has been busy, as hopefully kind of we've been keeping you vaguely up to date through the Facebook page as well. My son, Wilbur, is now, will be 2 this autumn. So yeah, it's kind of, it's amazing how the time has flown, but he's doing brilliantly. Colin's in Corfu, the lucky devil. I hope that you have as much sunshine as we do here in Warwick at the moment, of course, but I hope you don't have too much more sunshine than we do, otherwise we're going to get very, very jealous indeed. So my son's now 2, and the job at Warwick as Pro Vice Chancellor for International keeps me very, very busy indeed, and it's kind of a fascinating role where, of course, I'm responsible for all of the international facing aspects of the university. So that's across international student recruitment and engaged and supportive of the team running that. Then our international cultural campus, our kind of global campus community and the feel we create here for the 115 plus different nationalities that make up our very international student and staff body, and how we celebrate that here on campus. And we've created a program called One World Warwick that we will be celebrating again this November, where we have events going on across campus just to sort of celebrate and spotlight some of those different global cultures and really allow the people the chance to learn from others about different cultures around the world, as well as celebrate their own. Then I also kind of working on international education opportunities, so for our students to be able to go and study either physically abroad in different places, or work with students from different universities in a digital online environment, or indeed work with students from different parts of the world here on campus, and to make sure that kind of global competency is a key part of what they're learning and experiencing while they're with us. And then, of course, we get into international research collaborations, where our academics are working with other academics around the world, but we try to also have a series of institutional level partners and strategic partners around the world that are the big universities that we're working with across everything from student mobility, international education, joint degrees, all this kind of thing, international research collaborations, and we have joint seed funds with them to promote the partnership and collaboration between our academics. And so a lot of the visits that I do when I go to different parts of the world are about progressing those really strategic relationships with those key university partners. So some of you will have picked up that I was in Hong Kong fairly recently, back in August, meeting with a number of the universities there, and over the past months before that, there's been a number of trips to different parts of the world, and that will continue. And then last week I was in Europe. I was in Slovenia for a meeting of what's called the Guild of European Research Intensive Universities. So the Guild is a policy group of European universities, including Britain, in fact set up by the University of Warwick initially back in 2016 when something happened. Now, what was it that happened back then? Yes, Brexit. So that we can have a voice, particularly in Brussels, to influence the development of research and education policy at the European level. And of course, there's two really important elements to that. One is that the European Union has the Horizon Europe research funding program, so-called framework program, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, kind of in the world in terms of the amount of research funding that is available. And it's a really important time for that because the current funding programme is coming to the end of its life, and so we are in the process of working with the Commission, the Parliament, the Council to develop what the next framework programme and funding programme will look like. And of course, there's a lot of politics involved in that, and fingers crossed that Britain will continue to reassociate with that as it has done with the current funding programme. And then, of course, they also run Erasmus Plus, which is the big student mobility programme, which we are not currently associated with as a country, as the UK, but all fingers crossed that we might be soon. And then, of course, we are also members of something called a European University Alliance, the Utopia, get the pun, alliance of European universities that work together to create particularly ways of doing degrees and qualifications that allow students to experience being at those universities kind of all around Europe as part of that degree. So yeah, it is absolutely full on and fabulous. I'm very glad that you enjoyed some of the photos of Slovenia. I got up a mountain or two while I was there. Am I coming to Barcelona? I don't know when I will be in Barcelona, but I hope that we will soon be in Barcelona. Helen, glad you love the photos. Hello from Alaska, says William. You lucky thing. Wow. What is the weather like with you in Alaska at the moment? Tell us all, William. Tell us about what the weather is like. Absolutely fabulous, as always, to have this chance to come back and unite with such a global community that although we are not able to come together in these Q&A formats as much as possible, as much as I would like, as much as I hope you would like, I'm very glad that we continue to be such avid users of the Facebook group and indeed of the community, the Classics community Facebook group that grew out of this one. And I wanted to thank you for all of the great contributions that you make to both of those groups. And of course, huge thanks also to Claire for being brilliant at kind of overseeing and orchestrating what happens with those groups as well. So thank you, most importantly, for everything that you do and all the brilliant stuff you do. Elena is studying empires in October. Any advice for a third year open university student? Yes. If your third year sounds like a final year, is that right? Kind of in terms of you've got the big end of degree exams coming up and qualifications. Don't peak too early. Take your time. Pace yourself. It's a long final year. So kind of just enjoy it and make sure you get some breaks as much as anything else. William says in Southeast Alaska, it's always raining. Oh no, like kind of thing. There we were hoping for smooth sunny skies and frosty temperatures, but you've got the rain, so we can sympathise with you from the UK perspective, very much indeed. Things to let you know about. Some exciting news, first of all. So some of you may remember, and we put something up about this on the Facebook group, that across last year, we were running something here at Warwick called the Marco Polo International Programme. And this was celebrating the fact that in 2024, it was 700th anniversary of the death of Marco Polo, one of the great explorers between East and West. And of course, Warwick has the Warwick Venice Centre, where we've researched and taught from for pretty much since the entirety of the university's history, since 1967. And so we developed the Marco Polo International Programme, which was a set of educational and research collaborations, but also public engagement collaborations between Warwick, the Warwick Venice Centre, but also our strategic partners around the globe. So there were 36 global partners that we were coming together and collaborating across our staff, our students and our communities, with a series of different kind of events that were research, education focused, public engagement focused, really focused around the power and impact of cultural interaction and the movement between cultures, both in the past and in the present. So that programme of activity went on all year, and if you want to know more about it, you can have a look at warwick.ac.uk/MPIP. Marco Polo International Programme, to see some of the things that we were doing. And there's some great videos of some of the fun things like the AI Marco Polo that we created, but also the International Conference of Undergraduate Research, where great students from around the world were presenting their research to one another for the very first time as undergraduates. And that Marco Polo International Programme has been shortlisted for the THE, the Times Higher Education International Collaboration of the Year Award, which is absolutely amazing stuff, because THE Awards, the Times Higher Education Awards, are pretty much the creme de la creme of university awards. And so to be shortlisted as a finalist for International Collaboration of the Year is a massive achievement. We're incredibly proud of having done that with the Marco Polo International Programme. But in terms of our international work, it doesn't just stop there, because just yesterday we found out that in the UK Council for International Student Affairs, UK CISA Awards 2025, and these are the so-called #WeAreInternational Awards, Warwick has also been shortlisted as a finalist for University of the Year for the support that we give our international students, and also our Student Opportunity Team, our Student Visa Advice and Compliance Team, and one of our students, Mondra Hira Islam, has been nominated as for the Community Impact of the Year Award. So this is absolutely incredible news, and speaks to the way that Warwick really is proud of its international community, supportive of its international community, and is out there creating connections around the world. And talking about my lanyard, Patricia, yes, this is international in of itself. This was given to me when I was visiting our strategic partner, Stellenbosch University in South Africa. And it was made through a charity that Stellenbosch work with, where these are made by particularly a whole series of artisan craftspeople that they work with in and around Stellenbosch, and are using these crafts to turn them to slightly more unusual kind of outcomes than you would expect in traditional African cultures. So university ID card lanyards as being one of the examples. And it is my absolute pride and joy. So thank you for spotting my lanyard indeed. Good luck, it says Sarah. Absolutely. Elena says good luck to Sarah. Absolutely, absolutely. I hope things all go well for you as your student in your last year, and to you, Elena, you've got one more year, it sounds like. Okay, so you've got a bit more time. You can enjoy the studies even more before you get into your final year. So we're extremely proud about the stuff that we've been going on at Warwick. But what is coming up? Well, there's going to be a date for your diaries here, people, because it's not until next year. But there are two dates that I wanted to flag to you. If you are in the region of Lytham St Anne's, many of you will know that I am a huge fan of Lytham St Anne's, and particularly I'm very proud president of Lytham St Anne's Classical Association branch, which is the largest branch of the Classical Association in the country, and have been president for over 10 years now. Started off back in 2014. Wow. And each year I go up in January time to do a presidential lecture. So the next date I will be there is the 8th of January, Thursday the 8th of January, and we'll be giving a talk about ancient Olympia and the ancient Olympics. So, and the site of Olympia more generally. So if you can get to Lytham St Anne's, then please come and join us for the 8th of January. It'll be absolutely fabulous to see you there. But if you can't do that, then hold your horses, because in February, the 3rd of February, 2026 is publication day for my next book. So I don't get much time. I don't get time to teach anymore because of my role, and I get a small amount of time to do my research. But one of the things we have been able to get through, push through, and get to publication, which I'm so proud of, is a book that I'm doing with Yale University Press about the life and times of Themistocles. Now, some of you may know that name. The book is entitled Themistocles, The Rise and Fall of Athens' Naval Mastermind. That gives you some clues as to who he was. A canny politician of Athens through the kind of real development phase of Athenian, golden age of Athenian democracy. Hero of the Persian invasions of Greece, and the person often credited with enabling particularly Athens and what more widely Greece's success and defeat of the Persian navy at the Battle of Salamis. But a man flawed in so many ways, who had both rise and fall, and then rise and fall again within the turbulent times of Athenian politics. So I've done a biography of him with Yale University Press, and that will be being published on the 3rd of February. And that means a launch party. So stay tuned for some details about the launch party in London. And of course, we'll be doing a Q&A to support that as well. So I look forward to seeing you all then when we all get excited about Themistocles as a cool and key character. And it's been really, really instructive to kind of write the book, because it's very much a lesson in how reputations are created, and how often posthumous reputations and reputations at the end of one's life can be so different to the lived experience of what life was like. And often it's a brilliant reminder in my eyes of just how when you look at a career through the lens of actually what was the next step at each stage, how uncertain and unsure the individual was, how uncertain it was the next step should be, how many times they fell back as much as they made successes and fell forward. And it's a real life lesson, I think, in remembering that from the outside, so many careers and lives can seem like a series of logical steps forward, or a natural culmination and rise to fame or glory or whatever it might be, and that actually no life is led like that, and that everything is a much less coherent and coordinated series of uncertain next steps where the future is continually unpredictable. So this book is going to be dedicated to my son Wilbur, as someone just starting out in their life, as hopefully a bit of a reminder that kind of life is an uncertain process, and never to be put off by looking around you and thinking that everyone else has got it sorted and you haven't, because that's simply not the case. So Colin is suggesting canapes, Sarah's suggesting drinkies, Paul Carolyn book launch, Daunts again, there will be a Daunts launch, yes indeedy. So watch out for invites and details about that as we go forward, but keep your diary focused for that week in February. And then other things to look out for on TV. Some of you may have seen that I did, if you watch German TV, by any means, shape or form, you will have seen that I did an interview for a programme about Dark Athens, as it was called, Dark Greece more widely. It was about the sort of dangerous and dark side of ancient Greece. That was a great series to do a programme for. And I'm currently involved in a really interesting programme that is comparing Socrates and Confucius. Now, some of you may remember that my Ancient Worlds book back in 2016 did a little bit of this in terms of comparing and contrasting the different leaps forward in thinking about how to run society that were happening around about the 5th century BCE, whether that was in Greece or whether that was in Italy and Rome, or indeed whether it was in China as Confucius and Socrates and other characters, different forms of politics, Roman republicanism, Athenian democracy, Confucianism, and ideal society were all coming into play around about the same time. And this program is using quite an interesting series of very modern digital techniques, I won't say more at this stage, to be able to bring those conversations to life. So it's great fun to be involved in that as well. Now, again, this is just some of the things that are coming up, and obviously there's great stuff on TV. Some of you have been mentioning Bethany Hughes, Harry Sidebottom, lots and lots and lots of different people and things. And of course, Natalie Haynes is on tour at the moment for her new recent book, which I very much suggest you get to. Elena's asking about her view on Cleopatra. What's my view on Cleopatra? How she has been portrayed and perceived throughout history? Oh, such an interesting topic. Cleopatra, the more we find out about her, the more, on the one hand, I think what an extraordinary individual she was and how canny she was to operate within a very, very complicated and swiftly changing political and military system at a time when the whole power balance in the Mediterranean was being turned on its head. And how much I would give my right arm to meet her and talk with her. And on the other hand, how much at the same time her image has been whitewashed, hasn't it? Or rather stereotyped and really sort of simplified in some ways to become this seductress figure, which may have been an element of what was going on, but actually completely misses out, crucially, the intelligence that was there for her to be able to not only rule her own civilization, which was itself a melting pot of both Greeks and Egyptians, as well as kind of coordinate with all of these different powers across the Mediterranean. I think she's both a fascinating woman and one which is much maligned and oversimplified in terms of the historical record. We've got time for one or two more questions. Latifa had a question about X marks the spot. She was asking about the tattoos on the Ice Maiden that we looked at as one of the chapters from my book X marks the spot, and the tattoos on her, and what were those tattoos of? They were principally of different animals, Latifa. So the animals, particularly animals that they would have been surrounded by living in the mobile community that they were as they moved across that area, over in the east. So the different animals that clearly held value to them were the tattoos that were all over the Ice Maiden. So hopefully that answers the question. Pauline O'Donovan asked about concrete. Yes, we should always ask about concrete. And talking about the difference between, and particularly how modern concrete is more environmentally damaging than ancient concrete. And yes, there are elements to this. It's absolutely true. So ancient concrete, or ancient Roman concrete in particular, utilized a natural ingredient, pozzolana, which acted as the binding agent, the version of modern cement, if you like. And because that was a natural product, it didn't have to be man-made like modern cement does, then of course there was less environmental damage in the making and manufacturing of that cement, that binding material. Particularly in modern cement, it actually requires much higher firing temperatures than the ancient version did. But it's not just that you needed a lot more in the modern ingredients of cement, lots more sand and aggregates to do the job of what ancient pozzolana was able to do so brilliantly. It's a volcanic dust. So you needed more of this stuff at higher temperatures to be able to produce the same amount of binding agent and cement that goes into concrete. But equally, Roman concrete was it was harder and more durable than modern concrete is made, so it lasted longer, and therefore buildings didn't need replacing, and they didn't need more concrete adding to them, and so from that perspective it was also environmentally less damaging. And so in those ways and forms, yes, indeed. Oh, Patricia, that's a very concrete answer. I love it. Well done. Yes, indeed. Absolutely brilliant. So go ancient Roman concrete. Most importantly, it can set underwater, which is pretty amazing. Karen Swan, we've got time for one or two more. Karen Swan asks, did the ancient Greeks celebrate birthdays? No, not really personal birthdays. These weren't a big issue. They did celebrate birthdays of key gods. and goddesses, particularly Artemis. And kind of those were the dates that really stuck in their mind. But occasionally, if you were the head of a very, very grand house, and particularly as we get towards the Hellenistic period, it all became about grand families and individuals rather than about the collective, as it had been more often during the classical period, then you start to get certain heads of families that are celebrated. But kind of normally, no, there are no celebrations of birthdays really within the Greek world. Right. Have we got any more time? I don't think we have. We're out of time. We've had our half an hour. Oh, time has flown by. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in for the live Q&A. It's been great to be with you. Lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for coming and joining at this time. And here's to getting together again in much less time in the future than it has been since we last had a chance to meet. But keep those dates in mind. 8th of January up in Lytham St Anne's if you can make it, and then the week of the 3rd of February for the launch of Themistocles, the rise and fall of Athens' naval mastermind. If you're going places in the interim between now and then, do let us know. I will of course let you know about my travels and how things are getting on with the students. Wish us luck for the next couple of weeks as the students come here to Warwick and turn this place upside down on its head. A Q&A at Christmas sounds like a nice idea indeed, Helen. Let's keep that in mind. Let's have a think about that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can do that. Think of us in mid-November when we find out whether or not we've won with the THE Awards and with the UK CISA Awards as well. So fingers crossed for that. And it's so nice to see you all. Stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, keep thinking about and talking about the classics, absolutely about the ancient world, because it remains just as important as ever. Take care of yourselves. Bye.